So welcome everybody to the New Zealand Hemp Industries Association's roll-up of the Hemp Ideation Challenge, which we ran earlier in September, and the prizes were announced on the 18th of September. We won't go into the details there because what you've been invited along today for is a VIP presentation of the platform that we used in our Hemp Ideation Challenge. And Melissa, our next speaker from WebTools, will be going through some of the details of what went on the day and explain some of the things that we achieved. And then we'll hear from Nathan about the platform and the ideation and discovery process that planbox is so famous for. So this is just an introduction. You know, the New Zealand hemp industries has been around since 1997, and we've had industrial hemp being grown since 2006, but it's only really getting interesting now. And when I've been asked to speak to to open up the session, we've got this really interesting stage where we've gone full circle, and I just wanted to introduce this concept called Commergy, which is something that was useful for using agricultural raw materials as a raw material into industry back in the 1900s. And that's Henry Ford on the right hitting his plastic car, which was made of hemp and soya. And the guy on the left, George Washington Carver, is famous for using this process of using agricultural waste as a raw material. So it's not something new. I mean, what we've got, you know, cellophane coming from cellulose used to be made from plant materials. So we're going to go back full circle and really start using industrial hemp as that raw material, and this is where it gets excited, because 80 years of prohibition mean that not a lot of work's been done in this space, and that means that there's tremendous opportunities for us. You know, we can see a whole range of hemp seed food products that have become possible due to a change in regulation 2 years ago. So things are moving constantly and really get exciting now. This slide shows how far and vast it can be, because we're moving from food into the fibre. The road there, the asphalt, putting a little bit of hemp fibre in the asphalt makes it last longer. Yachting, composites, very exciting. So these are high-tech, low-tech uses of fibre. And this is really where our sector's going, and the health is probably the one that's going to drive it from a cash flow point of view. But again, that requires a regulatory change. I just wanted to show you this slide because it's Paul Callahan, and it's talking about that you know, the productivity of us. And as you can see, tourism, it's great for employment, but it's not so productive. We need to be moving up into these higher levels. And what he was saying in 2011 is, give me 100 entrepreneurs that could make $1 billion industry, you would have a $100 billion economy pretty quick. So this is where we want to be. And we believe, of course, that hemp food and fibre and health products can be part of that marketing mix, all underpinned by the growers and the tech and things that are required in that space. We actually produced a snapshot earlier in the late last month to highlight the potential of this industry being a $2 billion industry by 2030. But there's lots of challenges that we're experiencing, but there's huge benefits, the environmental benefits, the health outcomes, adding value to our New Zealand story and things is very, very important. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a background there on what we're trying to achieve today. And now I'll hand over to Melissa from WebTools, who's the CEO of the Agritech section, and she'll be able to introduce that a little bit better and explain what was going on in with our opportunities in this tech space. Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks, Richard. Welcome to everyone. Some familiar names there, but so we did an ideation challenge, and I'd actually heard about the planbox technology a couple of years ago, and just sort of what it could do. As Richard mentioned, innovation is sort of no longer a luxury, but a necessity to be able to be competitive, remain at that fore of markets and trends and that kind of thing, and just the rapid speed at which things are changing. It needs to be a core capability. So, and there's lots of reasons why it's quite challenging, and I'm sure you've probably all read and understood, and you know, the sort of natural immune system of an organization being that its whole reason for being is to do business as usual, and innovation really fundamentally challenges that. So you kind of get the organization pushes out any innovation. We've seen it time and time again, even acquisitions that people buy in innovation and then they eventually just kill it because they just don't have the ability to nurture that and to understand it and think differently because the organization is built to do business as usual. So when the hemp sort of industry came along, started to get more publicity, I guess, and more the movement starting to gain momentum, we had the opportunity to do an innovation challenge with the Christchurch NZ. And I just thought, because the hemp is sort of crucial in lots of ways and presents a massive opportunity. And basically can be used in anything you can look, touch, and feel or use. Hemp could probably be used in it in some way. So to me, there was an opportunity for where the Hemp Industry Association can sit, as well as organizations looking to innovate. So I'll go a little bit over what we did. We had 50 people register. We had a bunch of different teams participate on the day. What was really cool is going through the process. So I think unless you're part of an innovation process and you actually have it facilitated, how do you innovate intentionally doesn't often come naturally to people. We went through a process, and this is planbox's technology, and it's sort of elegantly simple, where you start with what is known, and then you start to move through the process of getting to things you hadn't thought about before, that new knowledge, that identifying the gaps, the white space between all of what we currently know. That's the kind of magical sauce. My experience and lots of research supports that the human brain is really not conditioned to find those opportunities. We're conditioned to gravitate to what we can see. You know, if I say to you, don't look at the pink elephant, or don't think about the pink elephant, then that's kind of you're only going to look at the pink elephant. So yeah, that was I think there's a question here from someone. Just to answer your question, Pure Heart, I think you asked a question about whether the ideas were fleshed out or whether they're just concepts. So there are differing levels. Some people came with pre-existing ideas. The whole point of the process was ideation, and I think that's often missed, is because we want to move to getting it done and delivering something. We often miss that kind of unadulterated freedom of just ideating for ideation's sake. I think there was one really cool participant, and he was probably, just a bit different than everybody else, and his ideas were a bit left of center, or just a bit out in left field, and we, even as facilitators, were like, what is this guy doing? And actually embracing that diversity of thought, and embracing what we thought was just completely not trying to control the process, had us come up with some really cool ideas. So as a specific example, he put tennis balls in, and we were like, I mean, that's great, and yep, you can make them from hemp, but innovative, I don't know about that. And someone else put something else. So this is in the known part. We're putting clues in. Someone else put other things, and then we brought the group back together, and I sort of playfully said, I'm just going to chuck a bunch of different clues together and see what we can come up with, and didn't try to make them correlated, didn't try to make them sort of related to each other, and they were really quite not related at all. And all of a sudden, like, the group started to see, oh, this is where the sort of make America's Cup boat out of hemp, the sails, the ropes, the whole thing, and the iconography and the marketing that would go around that for New Zealand leading into the future with, a completely downstream managed boat and compostable, that kind of thing. And that came as a group, and no one brought that idea previously to the table. So I think you can like tangibly feel the energy just raise at that time. We were playing with it. We were going from known knowledge to new knowledge, and I think that's a really hard nut to crack, because people want to either have their ideas, they're married to them, or but by bringing the crowd together, there's a really magical thing that comes out of that. So the diversity of minds, and I think probably important to note where I see the opportunity, and hopefully, especially for New Zealand, but especially as hemp being completely unencumbered, it doesn't have either the legacy of dairy and meat and sheep and that kind of thing. Hemp gets to do whatever is sort of best, and can start to move quickly because it doesn't have those entrenched belief systems, ideologies, social sort of constructs around it. And it does have its sort of like, cousin of the other plant that it has to deal with, but of all the problems to have, it's probably one that can be more easily overcome. So I think where I want to have you guys, even if you can, invite you to listen to what Nathan's about to present from a how could we be better at innovating, where does, because to me hemp and innovation sit actually so close together, and it's a great medium for introducing this core capability into your organizations. And so if you listen to Nathan's presentation to the power of what planbox can do, and I say that on a grander scale as well for New Zealand, I've often thought, being, you know, a foreigner coming here, thinking we actually can build on the shoulders of giants, in that there is so much known knowledge in the world. If we can build on that as opposed to try to reinvent it, we would leapfrog most of the world in a lot of industries. And I think with what planbox offers, there's a really cool opportunity for ecosystems and companies and sort of regions to be able to do that through the power of the crowd. You know, and that's hard to do because it's a new way of doing business. We often sort of think competitive versus, you know, you versus me. But I think if we can start to solve global problems and have the pie is bigger, the working together makes it a whole lot more sense. So I will invite you to listen to think from that perspective, and also from the perspective of this needs to be a core capability. I don't know where it sits on your roadmaps and your strategy, but start to think about from that perspective. At the end, we'll talk about sort of what are next steps and how Richard and I are kind of working on, is this a service we can offer? How do we work together with the organizations locally to start to be better at innovation and more rapidly, and how do we use planbox potentially to speed that process up? So there's no, like, we're not selling anything, we're just trying to understand how we might work all together, and is this a service? NZHIA is in a position that would stand to benefit from having like a large crowdsourced, you know, database of ideas, and be able to facilitate that in amongst the community, across the building, cosmetic, nutraceutical, all kinds of sectors. So we're just trying to understand how that works, and we'll speak more about what are sort of the next steps and how we'll engage further. But over to you, Nathan.
Thank you, Melissa. Well, good morning, good evening for myself. Richard, I believe you may need to provide me with hosting rights. For me to share my screen. No call, folks.
Sorry, Nathan.
You're muted, Richard. There you go.
We're just
there we go.
So you're away now.
Yeah, no problem. I've got that. Brilliant. So you can just confirm you can see my screen there, Melissa? Richard, is that okay? Perfect. Fantastic. Well, you know, firstly, I'd like to thank you all for, you know, taking some time to have a listen to what I've got to say around our technology and the innovation management solution that we provide here at planbox. So I was going to start very briefly with an introduction to myself, the role that I play within the organization. I'll give you a little bit of information around who we are as a business. You know, the technology that we've developed really does address a key area in the innovation management market. We have some really you know, interesting solutions and offerings available. I'll spend some moments talking about some of the customers we work with and how they've been able to leverage our platform to drive some really exceptional results within the organizations they work for. And then finally, I'll spend some time running you through the actual solution and technology that we provide. We will have some time for any questions towards the end as well. So to start with a very brief introduction, my name is Nathan Jacob. I'm the EMEA General Manager here at planbox. So we really have a global operation with an office headquartered here in the UK, and I head up the operations for the European, Middle East and African side of the business, and in this instance stretching out to the likes of New Zealand as well. Now, to provide some context into the role that we play for our clients and the reason that we developed the solution that we have, if we jump back to the 1980s, organizations were hit with the need to handle lots of financial data. Now, at that point, ERP systems were developed with organizations like SAP really paving the way for ERP systems as a system of record for financials. If we take a 20-year leap to the year 2000, that requirement had changed. So organizations at this point were faced with the need to handle vast amounts of customer data. Now, those ERP systems of the past were not developed with this requirement in mind. And this ultimately led to the birth of the CRM system, with organizations like Salesforce being the market leaders for a system of record for customer data. Now, if we take another 20-year leap to the year 2020, a lot of the top analysts believe we're going through another wave, and that is the age of innovation, where the transformation rate of technology is forcing organizations to innovate more consistently, but also at a faster pace. Now, like the ages before it, this has really driven the need for a system of record for innovation. And that is where planbox comes in and the role that we play for many of our clients. Now, just like any other key operating area of the organization, you know, if you look at payroll, there is a payroll system to support that function. HR, you have a HR system, sales, CRM. Innovation should be no different. And that's what we bring to the table here at planbox. Now, as an organization, we've been helping organizations manage their innovation processes for over 20 years. We have over 400 enterprise level deployments of our solution globally, engaging over 5 million active participants at any given time. Now, that can be comprised of a business's internal stakeholders, such as our employees, but also branching out to external stakeholders, such as partners, suppliers, even branching out to the likes of the emerging technology community, academics, and researchers. Now, we've been able to recognize over $10 billion worth of return of investment for the clients that we work with. And this is through various cost optimizations, process improvements, and new revenue opportunities that have been identified through the planbox platform. Now, I also wanted just to spend a very quick moment just to highlight our recognition in the market for our current offering and our strategy in the latest Forrester Wave report. Now, for those who are not familiar with Forrester, they're one of the leading analysts in the innovation management space. You may be familiar with the likes of Gartner, and these guys really fall on the same level as Gartner. Now, as you can see, planbox ranked as the #1 vendor here for our unparalleled features, but also our corporate strategy and how we look at innovation for the clients that we deal with. And that leads me quite nicely onto my next slide, which is some of the more recognizable brands that we work with and help drive their innovation processes. Now, each one of these clients may have a different innovation strategy and objective, and we really work closely with the organizations to make sure that we tailor and mold our services and also the system to meet the desired objectives. But there are a few use cases I thought I'd share with you just to give you some insight into how some of these customers leverage the planbox platform. Now, I'm going to keep this quite engaging. I'm going to pick the the nice punchy brands that you'll probably see on the screen, and we'll talk about some tangible, demonstratable, success stories from some of these clients. So the first one I'm going to mention is Honeywell Aerospace. Now, Honeywell Aerospace leveraged our platform as an internal ideation system so that they could collect ideas from their employees around how to generate new revenue opportunities and also streamline processes as well. Now, one of their employees was raking leaves in his back garden one day, and he had an idea for how to streamline the packaging process within the manufacturing plant. He submitted the idea through his mobile application while he was raking leaves, and that made its way into the planbox platform. That then went through the predefined workflow that we configured into the platform to allow that idea to be collaborated on with other stakeholders within the business. They could share their comments, feedback, suggestions, really work together to build out that idea. It went through the rounds of evaluation to ensure that it was, aligning with the company brand, that it had a reasonable time to market, that it wasn't going to cost too much to implement. And finally, it was commercialized and actually made as a product that Honeywell would provide. Now, within the first 12 months, on that idea that the employee had while raking his leaves in his back garden one day, Honeywell Aerospace were able to recognize a $10 million revenue line on that single product that he had thought of. So a really interesting use case And again, from one idea that was submitted through the platform. Now, another quite interesting use case to show how, this system can also be used to deal with quite complex challenges. We have Ferrari sat within our portfolio as well. Now, our platform is actually being used by Ferrari's Formula One team. It's quite an interesting use case. For Formula One, if we have any Formula One fans on the call, as you may be aware, there are coming some changes in legislation in 2021. So Ferrari used our discovery platform to try and find ways to make sure that they could improve on the speed of their vehicle, whilst making sure they were compliant with the new legislation that was coming out in 2021. So again, some quite complex conversations happening within Ferrari's Formula One team. I've had the pleasure of working quite closely with the champion of this program for the last 12 months, and they've done some absolutely amazing things within the platform. I can't always pretend I understand all of the technical speak that he runs through, but again, some really great collaboration happening within Ferrari on that topic. Now, the final use case I'll reference, just to give you a bit of a different perspective on how our platform can be leveraged, is that of Whirlpool. Now, Whirlpool, large manufacturer of home appliances, and they leveraged our system for a slightly different engagement and a slightly different level of collaboration. So they had two initiatives that they ran. Firstly, they worked with their partners and suppliers to try and develop new integrated technologies. And they also implemented a design thinking methodology to engage directly with their customers, to really bring them to the heart of the design process when identifying what concepts they would like to see in the next release of washing machines. Quite fittingly, they named that campaign Disruption. We have a nice case study available on that as well. But really engaging with external stakeholders, not only to try and improve the internal processes, but those with the partners, suppliers, and bringing the customers into the design process, at the first port of call. Now, if anyone does like to, do a bit of reading around innovation, or would like to learn a little bit more about the kind of processes that we apply, we really do see ourselves as thought leaders within this space. We have, a vast amount of really insightful and valuable content available on our website. Now, these can include things as strategy playbooks through to how to pitch innovation, design thinking methodology, how to structure and apply, an innovation program with some of the best practices that we have. So, feel free to log on planbox.com/resources, and all of this information is readily available for you. And the final slide for me is a single diagram that explains Planbox's capabilities from the start point to the end point. Now, what we really provide is that end-to-end innovation management platform to really connect those organizational challenges with the best ideas and best concepts from your ecosystem. Now, when I say ecosystem, that could include anyone within the organization, tapping into the central intelligence of your employees, or engaging with the likes of the partners, suppliers, academia that we can see across the top here. Now, we split our solution up into 4 different offers and 4 different solutions or modules, should I say. The first one being Discovery Central. And this is what we used within the NZHIA Ideation Challenge to collect and collide those ideas, as Melissa mentioned earlier. Now, our Discovery Central module has some really powerful methodology behind this. Essentially, what we present here is a diverge-converge process that essentially runs on what we call the 4 lenses of innovation methodology. Now, the 4 lenses of innovation was written by an innovation specialist called Rowan Gibson in the form of a book. And he helped us code this software to really capture the essence of his methodology. Now, the way that this works is we first take data insights, and these can be any factual bits of information. From those insights, we understand what the clues are. From those clues, we turn them into meanings and begin to understand what meaning may sit behind the clue. From the meanings, we identify the hunches, and from the hunches, we then identify the opportunities. The opportunities you can then really expand on and begin to work further to develop out and flesh. And as we say, we have a really great case study that we have on the back of, the NZHIA Hemp Challenge that we ran. And you can see some of the caliber of solutions that came out on the back of that. Now, the second module that we move into is the ability to have a centralized and sustainable way of managing innovation within an organization. And this allows you to launch business challenges to connect with the relevant stakeholder within your ecosystem. And again, collect all of those great submissions and apply a workflow-driven process to identify which ones are aligning best with strategy and which ones may rank highest for you to consider rolling out in the future. Within this, one of the really key areas that we've developed that allows us to rank so highly within the market, but also drive a really compelling solution, is our patented AI technology. So it's a really great feature within our software. Now, what we identified is that over the last 2 years, 90% of the world's data has been created. There's the same expectation for the next 2 years. And at any given time, organizations analyze less than 5% of the data they have access to. It's become so much more difficult to diligently consume all of that information, and then even more challenging to present that in a meaningful and consequential way. So what our platform does is connect to those internal and external databases. Internally, it could be the likes of your SharePoint drives. It could be the likes of customer feedback databases. Externally, it could be the likes of technology websites, the local patent office, Mashable, TechCrunch, for example. And based on your challenge that you've presented to our platform, what the system will do is search those relevant databases and pull in supporting and inspirational content to help your users generate those winning and unique ideas. It's a really powerful solution and a really powerful piece of technology that is really unique to the planbox platform. So once we move on and we have taken the ideas through the process of collecting them, being able to collaborate on them, assess and evaluate them, to rank and prioritize them, what we then offer is the ability to create that business case. And this is through interactive and collaborative business model canvases. If I just take a quick jump back, one of the clients you can see we work with is PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, so one of the big four management consulting firms. And one of the things that they found was that when they were identifying these high valued opportunities and having to actually position them to their executive team, they needed a quick and effective way to be able to do so. So what they were able to do was leverage the interactive and collaborative business model canvases to map all of those key data points onto a single page to provide that easy and effective way to position that to their executive team. Now, the third module we move into is the ability to experiment with these ideas when they move through the funnel. And we really apply an agile methodology to experimenting with these ideas so that you can iteratively improve on them and identify whether to fail fast or fail cheap. What we then move into is the ability then to manage the portfolio. Now, I imagine that the key areas we'll be focusing on ideally would be these first two areas around discovery central and innovation central that really allow you to connect those organizational challenges with the best ideas from your ecosystem. So, I'd like to take a moment just to welcome any questions. Appreciate we've, run through that pretty quickly. Melissa, Richard, I hope I'm on time and I've not eaten up too much of the remainder of the session. But, happy to take any questions, guys, if anyone would like to, ask me anything.
Okay, so thank you very much, Nathan. That was a very high-level overview of the whole process. We'll keep the chat options open if anybody does have any questions, or if they want to turn off their mute and ask the questions, just jump in, because we will have a few minutes now, because Nathan, you were actually quite quick. Well done.
Okay, ahead of that.
We did have in mind the the opportunity to really take a deep dive and see some of these reports in action, because I think the prioritization one is really useful in the sense of us after you've gained some of the insights. And what I'll do while we're just waiting for some questions, and I'll come back because I do have some questions myself, but I just wanted to, if I can stop you sharing your screen there, Nathan. Okay, yeah. And then I will just go into this one and just sort of picking up again, it's on your Discovery Central process, and then looking at some of the aspects you talked about, which is we found quite interesting. And Melissa, you might want to comment on how we handled it, because our approach was more from an industry point of view rather than a one individual company. But it was using those clues and then having them lead into our meetings, going into the hunches and the insights, and then taking those into something that gave us some priorities as well, which was all done with your AI, which is amazing. You know, the sense that it can contact our hunches and put them into context of what already exists out there, which, as you said, if it's only 5% of the people information available is being used, that you do need something to help you to collate that information. And that's, again, another one about another slide. Now, I'll make these slides available in the next email that goes out to the people that registered. And that was just a thank you slide. So it's a very interesting process. And Melissa, do you want to talk us through about how what Nathan has said, how it worked in our particular instance, and then we'll go back to some questions.
Yeah, we've got a question here from Pure Heart. Is there an opportunity to utilize the platform on a trial basis? I'd like to go through a real-time example if possible. Yeah, so that's something I think probably part of the conversation we'll be following up with Richard and I and Nathan around how you might be able to use that, you know, sort of as a smaller version, which is sort of what we did with the NZHIA so what am I able to share my screen, Richard?
Yeah, we can do that. And also we'll put in a link. I'll just set you up, Melissa. A link to what they call the innovation maturity test, which is something that is a straightforward. It's on the planbox platform. It's just a series of questions that are quite straightforward, and that'll give Nathan and his team some insights there as well. But we'll add some of that information into the email following this presentation. Over to you, Melissa.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so sorry, Melissa, just before we move on, just to add a bit of further context, because I think it's a really interesting point that Richard raised around the maturity test. And just to provide some context as to what this will do for you, for everyone on the call, essentially our innovation maturity test is a 5-minute test that you can take to our website. And it will ask you a number of questions around 5 key performance indicators that we've identified for an effective innovation program. Following your submission, what that will then do is produce a report that will be sent directly to your email that will rank you on a level 1 to 5. Now, 1 being that innovation is relying on the heroics of a few, all the way to level 5, in which innovation is a standard operating procedure within the business. What else we will provide is some recommendations on how you can take each one of those 5 key performance indicators to the next level to really begin to creep up the innovation maturity scale. You know, following that, should any of you like a discussion around those results and how we have helped some of the other organizations we work with to really move up the scale, you know, feel free to reach out. I'm sure, you know, Melissa wouldn't mind taking that information as well.
So, yeah, thanks, Nathan. I appreciate that. So, being web tools, we build software for agriculture, agribusiness. So we come across a lot of people who are in that early phase of design thinking. And part of what we're really excited about is for us to do our job really well, organizations really have to have this capability. So that's kind of the link there. And we often kind of unofficially need organizations to go through that innovation maturity sort of test anyways, because it does cover everything from strategy all the way through to delivery, so, and culture and that kind of thing. So I really encourage you guys to do that. I'm going to start to share my screen if I can. Here we go. Can I get a nod that you can see my screen, Richard? Cool. Okay. So as you can see, there's the sort of clues, meetings, hunches, and just in terms of your question specifically about a use case, I think what is exciting is if you use this in an organization, you would be able to really hone in on the problem and really clearly identify, like, our manufacturing process takes X, or we need to, one of our products could be used differently, or we need to develop new products, or whatever the challenge is that you can work on. And that often comes from sort of a strategic level discussion as to what are the barriers to growth. But from here, then we worked on, okay, well, what is known, right? And so we actually were able to get a whole bunch of clues, either from people's minds, or we can show outside inspiration. And Nathan alluded to the ability to plug in lots of other sources of information. This is just a sort of snippet. If I were to type, there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes up through different sources, and it started to broaden the what is known horizons, and that starts that, okay, well, if we know all of this, then, and now we can start to identify what the white spaces are. It really gets interesting, and I think we saw it on the day as well, is the meanings that then come from it. I think it's just loading. Yeah, there we go. So what you essentially are doing is starting to make connections. And this is what I found really interesting, and where I think the crowd starts to get really powerful is what I make. Drying facilities are bottlenecks for seed growers. What I make that mean, and what I think that means, is going to be very different to what someone else with a different lens, perspective, thought process, and we get into the power of the diversity of thinking is if we can take all the different people with all the different life experiences, all the different insights, upbringings, that whole thing, we get to see very quickly how they interpret facts, as you will, and that starts to then bring us to the hunch. Oopsies. Sorry, I'm operating it wrong. And the hunches, I think, this is sort of just before there are opportunities. It's when we start to say, okay, well, if hemp's a good use of land, hemp is good for my well-being, I can easily add to any food. Well, actually, there's a whole lot of ways we can develop products here, and that might be, we can start to develop an opportunity that a food product. It starts to just evolve, and you can get as creative or as simple as you want, but it's engaging in the process, and you could see through the day almost like the innovation muscle, the brain, the thinking differently, thinking outside the box started to expand. A little bit conservative probably in the early part of the day, people kind of just going to what they know, what they kind of came with, conversations they previously had, but towards the end of the day we were well and truly into new realms of possibility and opportunity. Most people didn't want to leave, and so we're trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we carry this on, which is, I guess, how we've gotten here.
Melissa, can I just jump in there? If you could just go back to that previous slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
Just had, and Nathan, if you just want to talk about the lenses, because that's all part of the setup that you work with clients. Some sort of grouping because we see here the clues under the food lens. We've got 58 clues, so they're all groups. How does that all work together in this discovery process, Nathan?
Yeah, so the different lenses that essentially you apply to this process are the different key areas that you're looking at around ideation. So you can see here we have, the fiber lens for hemp, the food hemp production, so on and so forth. So this could apply for anything. So if we look at maybe the future of cities, the different lenses that we may apply to the future of cities may be accommodation, transport, and this is very fitting with everything that's going on at the moment. Now, essentially, the whole idea of this discovery process is to try and collide these different areas. So what you can see here is, it says any of 57. So what you're actually able to do is flick through each of these individual clues to see if you can match any of them together to create the hunch. So, food lens, food stores well as a resource, maybe a bit difficult to do it now and to run through it on the spot. But essentially what we're trying to do here is to collide different clues in order to identify a potential hunch. And that's the whole point of this platform, is to be able to bring all of that content together in a workshop environment and collide all of that great data with some great minds to generate those unique opportunities.
I think, Nathan, you make a good point, because it's often been explained that we're moving from the age of the specialist to the generalist, and being able to, like you said, collide those areas. And as I would see it, almost as the use case specifically, you know, in products that relate to hemp, is how does technology change the human experience? How does, you know, where are we going in the future, and how are we going to deliver on solutions? And all of those different lenses could be brought together. And I think that's where you bring people who are specialists in this area to help you strategically understand those lenses and where you need to address. So,
Melissa, do you want to just jump right to the prioritize? Just spend a couple of minutes on that, because that's some lovely looking graphs and things that you can show how the interaction works.
I think what we'll go first is that, again, the power of the crowd. So this is where each opportunity gets to, I get to evaluate, okay, this one versus this one. So it's a pairwise comparison. This one feels more realistic. This one has more business potential. This one represents something for New Zealand, is more likely. And I can kind of evaluate them like that. What that then allows us, and what kind of as a result of the crowd having all of those concepts put together, and we know we often get way more accurate results when you put more people into the mix to have their say. This allows us then to say, okay, if I want to go right, I need to realize this. And as an organization, you could say, okay, if I wanted to realize something within the next 2 years, where would I go with this? So that's a way we can kind of, if I wanted to realization and business potential, now there's different things that show up when I sort of weight those more heavily than actionable and likely. So whereas if I go likely, that's the highest one. So there's sort of different ways of addressing it depending on the priorities of the organization and the strategic direction that the company or industry or group wants to take. It allows you to start to see the ideas in context of how you want to start to begin to commercialize these types of things. So I found that really, really valuable. There's some really cool tools that they offer, that the planbox solution offers, and this is just literally a snippet of what's possible. It was really cool to see how these changed over the day. Health got way bigger and beauty got way bigger over the time. What I found was what Richard and I were most interested in and sort of curious about and surprised about was that adventurous, you can't really see it there, but adventurous is one of the biggest bubbles. And this is, as I understand it, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but this represents a sort of consumer sentiment and also sort of played into that whole America's Cup boat and that the notion of what hemp is, sort of the underpinning sentiment that hemp provides for people, how it might be marketed, how you might communicate it, how you might position it in a marketplace for consumers. So it was really cool to see how they got there. There's, I think you can see here, all of these words they pull out, and you can start to see that there's some pretty smart stuff going on in the background to be able to better analyze what is coming through the ideation. So,
sorry, Melissa, are you seeing that chart on your screen?
Oh, I'm not sharing. Am I not sharing?
Not unless it's opened up on it, because we can still see the table of scenario evaluations, the results.
Probably. Yeah. Oh, you know what it is? It's that I'm only sharing one window.
Yeah, it would be on a different window. So, because that'll make sense for people to see the chart that it's like a big word cloud that's already got some pre-designed sort of names and sort of grouping things in. So you might have to go back to your screen share.
Share here. Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's the pattern mapper that you were talking about.
Yeah, so those are all consumer sentiments. You can sort of see that word bubble. I was just going through the adventurous, so you can start to see that obviously the technology's pulled out the words that allude to what makes sentiment, and yeah, so there was just some interesting stuff around where hemp sits almost in the consumer sentiment space, which as a lens is pretty good to put on the data to know kind of how are you going to commercialize this these ideas. So that's just one of the, there's just so many. I think I can do future history. No, that was not the one. Sorry, I'm just trying to think. So yeah, there's so many ways you can organize this stuff that as a leadership team or as an organization, you're going to be able to evaluate way more data fast than you would normally be able to, and from a lot wider sample size or crowd, as you will. That gives you a better insight into how you might do this more in a commercial sense. So that's I guess the way around that. It would be good if anyone wants to pop off mute and ask some questions, indicate a bit about the innovation's direction, how they see this fit, that kind of thing would be really good to understand. Because again, I think it's an opportunity for New Zealand to build on the shoulders of giants of what is known and what we can do. So, anyone questions?
Okay, right. So thank you, Melissa, for that show of the actual platform in action, and thank you, Kanika, for joining us. She's just let us know that she's leaving the call for another meeting. This is such a powerful tool, as you've said, so many ways to slice and dice. So just going back to Nathan, when you were giving us some examples, some people were going for the ideation process to sort of capture that raw, brainstorming. Others were going for more the discovery platform to match up how they could approach sort of compliance and competition sort of strategies. Is that something that is tailored to each organisation that your team work with, Nathan?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think one of the big things around innovation and innovation management that makes it different to maybe many of the other core processing or processes within the organization is that, the technology is only 50% of the success story. The process that's been applied behind that is just as important and as the solution that you use to capture that information. So ensuring you have, the right communication plan, that the challenge statement is being delivered in an effective way and that it aligns with strategy. Connecting, the innovation challenge with the project management office to ensure that you're delivering on those projects properly. So there's a lot that goes into the innovation management process, and absolutely that's something that we help all of our clients with. So we provide the technology, but we also provide the expertise and process to make that a sustainable innovation program in the long run.
Awesome. And this new word sort of in the innovation sense in the ecosystems that people are involved in is this word challenge. And how did you come across that? And is that an approach that seems to be working for you?
Yeah, so challenge-driven innovation is a really great way for organizations to target specific business problems. One of the real use cases is for that around challenge-driven innovation. If you have a specific objective and you're looking for a solution for that, then absolutely you would launch maybe a time-limited challenge that you allow to run for potentially up to 12 weeks. Engage with the right community of users to help you address and solve that challenge. So challenge-driven innovation is great for addressing those specific objectives. On the other hand, if you're looking maybe for something that's more transformational and more blue sky, you may not want to limit that to a challenge. You may just want to ask individuals for their biggest and greatest ideas. So yeah.
And how is it facilitating this collaboration within organisations and also from people and influencers outside of the organisations?
Sure. So, I mean, we provide that centralized platform to manage the innovation process. And, you know, part of the innovation process is collaboration. So having that one centralized platform to engage all of those different stakeholders in one area is really great for, you know, building that cross-departmental and cross-national collaboration. You know, one of the other key things that we've done with our platform is also built a number of out-of-the-box integrations that allow you to connect and really embed innovation within the existing systems you have within the business. So Microsoft Teams being one of them, the Office 365 stack in its entirety. You know, if an individual wants to send an idea via email, that can make its way into planbox. If you're leveraging Microsoft Teams, you know, you can collaborate within Microsoft Teams, and all of that great information makes its way into planbox as the centralized system of record for innovation. So we act as that centralized hub for collaboration in the innovation process, Richard.
Right on. And we noticed when we were running the Hemp Ideation Challenge, of course, we had a load of people in Web Tools office in shared space in the loft in Christchurch, but we also had people Zoom in and you know, and we all had a link. So, you know, geographically it's not a problem. And how do people sort of work in that space? Everybody has a log on to join a challenge or join the platform?
Yes, I mean, it's a cloud-based solution that we provide. So it can be, you know, accessed on any desktop. We have mobile applications available. So as long as you have internet access, you can get on and submit your ideas. In regards to the system itself, so the second half of the question, sorry, Richard, it was around the, do you mind just repeating that second half of the question that you have?
Oh, it was just confirming that it was a cloud-based and how people can access the system and be part of it. And if we teams versus individuals?
Yeah, so I think, you know, running around access as well. So we provide, you know, many different ways for people to access, from single sign-on through to social logins, unique URLs. And I think you also asked Richard as well around how you target the right individuals within our platform. So one of the things that you can do within the planbox system is begin to segment each of your users into communities or by skill set. When you then begin to launch the challenge, what you have the ability to do is select the community or skill set that you'd like to engage with for that challenge. As part of the workflows, any users that are then invited to the challenge will receive notifications to advise them that they've been invited to participate. They will receive reminders and updates on the status of any of their submissions, and those specific challenges will then only be available to the specific user groups that you're targeting through the platform.
So that could be a really, you know, searching for global experts, especially from a hemp point of view. You know, you might have a plant breeding question, you might have a hemp in a construction question, and you know, those groups of experts could be invited along to those challenges. And with regard to, you know, then therefore their ideas, they're all logged, they're all traceable. You know, so you know, people can then engage with, oh, you came up with some really interesting stuff there, I'd like to talk to you, and that leads up to other opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, one of the really up and coming you know, use cases that we're seeing within our platform is definitely around engaging more on a co-creation basis. So connecting, you know, potential organizations together, connecting an organization with a piece of emerging technology that could support them in their objectives as well. So absolutely, you know, connecting different stakeholders together that have that, you know, one centralized objective, and providing an area for those to co-create and collaborate with each other is absolutely what the system will do.
Right, and from the New Zealand sense, that could be quite important for some of our participants on the call, in the sense of some of them are individual companies, so their idea of innovation will be different to some of what we call our Crown Research Institutes or our universities, who are trying to find ideas to you know, apply their resources to, and need that collaboration. So that wider ability to scope into a range of areas could be very useful in that sense. So that's some really interesting stuff there. We're coming up to our time. Melissa, did you want to just finish off a little bit about explaining what the sort of the follow-up would be?
Yeah, so I think just going what's next. Again, this has to be a co-created sort of next step. Richard and I will follow up either with phone call or email, just around making sure that if you want to complete the innovation maturity test, Nathan will make sure that all of those submissions are communicated back to Richard and I, so we can start to discuss if it's something, you know, how do we start to think about. Basically, the question we're trying to answer is it something that the New Zealand Hemp Industries Association should take on for the industry, for New Zealand to start to innovate better? Is it of value to you guys? How would you use it? And for us then to figure, and Richard to then sort of say, okay, well, hey, there's actually a lot we could do here. Let's do what's necessary to get it in play and actioned. But it is for us, as you guys as industry leaders, for us to understand how you might see it working, where the biggest, you know, barriers, either mentally or, you know, commercially, and how might we overcome them. So yeah, it's just a conversation, and we'll follow up and get in touch about that.
Thank you, Melissa. That's great. And yeah, from the New Zealand Hemp Industries Association, that's exactly where we're looking at. Is it something that will help us to achieve this collaboration? Is hosting challenges in some of the sectors, food, fibre, health, growing, worthwhile to get that collaboration happening? Is it something that we can take a deeper dive down into and help individual companies to see how hemp will fit into their business plans? So there's a lot from our point of view that we're looking into, but there will also be benefits for individual businesses unrelated to hemp, in which case then you'll be dealing directly with Nathan and his team at Planbox to really move that whole thing forward, because it's a really exciting option, and the amount of integrations that can be achieved is something that, you know, people that are really interested in this innovation space should really be thinking about. So there's that sort of two types of approach that we'll be following up on behalf of Planbox to see if we can introduce you to them, and the other one would be to follow up around improving hemp's access into your business plan. So both of those are very exciting. I'd just like to sort of conclude by saying a big thank you to Melissa and Nathan for organising it and bringing this to our attention and moving it forward. Melissa has been a prime mover in this space. We got alongside Christchurch NZ, and they were the lion's share of the funding for our Hemp Ideation Challenge, and of course an acknowledgement to Hemptastic and the Brothers Green group of companies for their involvement and sponsorship. We ended up with a fantastic day. 3 cash prizes were awarded, and we had some really good innovation coming out of that. So it was an exciting day, and it really has highlighted and put this whole innovation process on the map. So we're very pleased that you guys have been taking some time out of your busy Friday to join us today, and we hope that it was of use for you to hear some of the presentations and some of the reasoning why this is such an important thing for you to consider, because with that sort of, as Nathan was describing, with that sort of amount of information floating around, you know, you would tend to get swamped, whereas using a bit of a platform like this and AI and all the rest of the cutting edge technology to really cut through that and get the definitive feedback that you want, it's going to save you a lot of time and really move you forward. And then using the ideation and discovery platforms in conjunction will really help you to move that through that space and commercialise those opportunities. So some wonderful things there. So on behalf of the New Zealand Hemp Industries Association, I'd just like to acknowledge once again Melissa and Nathan for their kind contribution in this sense. And again, thank you all for joining us. And it may take a little while for us to get this onto a recorded version and available, but we'll be circulating some information in a text form or a hard copy form as soon as we can. So thank you again, everybody. And if you have any further questions, please email NZHIA or admin@NZHIA and let us know, and we'll be able to answer those questions. And I'll put that contact details will be in the emails that are coming from the Humanitex platform that help us organise the event today. Okay.
Thank you very much, Richard, Melissa and Nathan. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a wonderful opportunity for the hemp industry, and I'm really keen to help you and be part of it. And great presentation, and nice to meet you, Nathan.
Right, thank you, Michael. Michael was one of our winners. Michael came in with the idea of growing industrial hemp in the red zone, and using that industrial hemp to build houses for the homeless in Christchurch. So a wonderful opportunity for hemp and scaling hemp into the construction industry, but a great outcome for an environmental and a social purpose as well, just joining up all of those things that the hemp industry is capable of doing. Wonderful. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, guys.
Right, thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.